I mean, if you end up borrowing the PlayStation in multiple spells, so be it. I mean,
Oh, well, when you say like the number of
it's not a
hours,
big deal.
the number of hours
It's
that
a
it would
lot.
like it would need, I can't recall, cumulatively what it really took us to get through that.
I looked up how long it is and stuff like that. If you just want to play the main campaign story, if you want to get the main story they're telling, it's probably about the same as those Lego games, 20 to 30 hours.
So wait, Mike, you didn't even play it yet.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I thought you played it already. Maybe I just assumed.
Yeah, so
No, it's one of those things like I'm waiting for the right time. Like I know when the Harry Potter itch hits me and it's in the fall every year. It just does. It also released at like the same time as the new year of Destiny.
Yeah, okay.
So it like in terms of like franchises, I probably like Harry Potter more than Destiny, but in terms of
I'm even a
video
little bit surprised
games,
Destiny went out in that face off.
well, in terms of video games, Destiny's gonna win. I mean, I have Josh, cover your ears. About 6,000 hours invested into Destiny and Destiny 2 at this point.
Wait, how many? 6,000?
6,000, yeah.
Jeez.
Hold on. I can go to time wasted on Destiny and I can find out real quick. It's a website dedicated.
That? Jesus fuck, that's 250 days.
Are you impressed? Oh no, I can give you actual numbers.
That'd not be the right question to ask.
Destiny 1, actually no, I'm actually shy. I'm at about 4,500. But I had 963 hours and 9 minutes played in Destiny 1. Destiny 2, I'm at 3,646 hours and 12 minutes.
I mean, even
like
if it was
4,500
8 hours
ish
of playing time per use, it'd be 562 days used.
To be fair, we are in the
8
9th year of Destiny. Like, Destiny and Destiny 2 have been around for 9 years now, so it's not...
You had to make me look, too. Now I had to see.
Well, you're way less than me.
Oh, yeah,
that.
but still, it's a good chunk of time. Still, 640 hours for D1, 1,056 hours for D2.
Yep, there it is. I just brought yours up. Yeah, I changed my Destiny now. I'm just Darth in Destiny. I dropped the pool.
Oh, there's no more Pooey.
Well, in Destiny 1, it still has it.
Darth without the Pooey.
Bring the
Yeah,
Pooey.
it's just Darth.
Bring back the Pooey. Bring back the Pooey.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brad Guy and Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick, and joining me for this episode is a few of our own ragtag misfits, Josh Zorich.
Okay, that's a good start back to sort of individual intros.
Don't get used to it. It's the best I can do.
It's fine. I'm liking it. It's a good foundation. I'm happy to be here.
And Mike Bradley.
Yeah, I'm here. Ragtag Bunch of Misfits works. I'm there for it. I expect a group name for us in every episode going.
Oh yeah, see, that's too much of a bar. I've next episode I already failed.
You set the bar for yourself.
See, this is why I didn't want to do it, because as soon as I come back to it, now I can't escape it again.
Too late. That's right. You can't escape it.
Son of a bitch.
And I will have one ready the next time I am on, in case you drop that ball.
All right, so we're here to basically mainly talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Looking back, we haven't really done like a new movie review probably since if checking the records since our Back in Black episode, which was the Black Adam and Black Panther episode, which was back in December. Like we've sort of done reviews, like you could sort of call the Mission Impossible ones kind of reviewy, but those are, they've never seen that stuff, so that's not the new stuff that's been coming out. I remember, like, I know Mike and I can't remember who else was on the episode, if it was Andy or Ian, but when we did What's Up With You, we talked briefly about some other stuff we've seen here and there. So again, it's kind of been a while. We know we have some movies in the back catalog we haven't talked about. And I think sometime Mike kind of suggested that we should try like a rapid fire review just to try to hit the stuff we've been missing. So we're gonna give that a go. We're gonna keep that sort of title and go with like a rapid fire review section here. So now, as good a time as any to try to hit some of the stuff that we've seen that maybe you're waiting for us to talk about, and I'm ignoring all of you and we're just doing our thing. So we're gonna try to run through some of the new releases that we've seen. We'll give it like a quick 1 or 2 sentence review, non-spoilery, for what we thought of the movie. Go through give it a out of 10 rating like we normally do with our reviews. And I know most of these probably could use an entire episode review if we want to, but for now this is what we're doing. So if any of these we talk about and there's something you want to hear more, maybe you want to get us more in depth of a review, let us know. We could always try to circle back to these at some point and see what we can figure out. But for now, this is the best you're going to get. So before we get to Guardians, we're going to go through the rapid fire review. We got 9 movies on this list. I'm going to go chronologically from when they were released, and we'll go down the list. So starting with Megan, which I did not see, but somebody here at least saw it. So what did you think of Megan?
Is this me or Josh?
Go for
I'm
it.
sure
Yeah,
Josh saw it too,
okay.
right?
Yeah, if you're up, go for it. Okay.
So we're on one sentence here. So I have pretty good. Not a horror movie to miss if you're into horror movies.
Okay. Out of 10, what do you give it?
7.
Okay. Josh, what do you got for Megan?
I'd say based on the trailers, it seems like it's basically just retelling the Child's Play remake from a few years ago. It is sort of that, but also different enough that it's unique. So
Okay.
I again, if you like the genre, the thriller horror, I'm with Mike. Give it a shot. I'd go a little bit more middle of the road. I'd maybe only go like a 5.5. Wasn't
Okay.
terrible, but didn't wow me.
Uh,
I mean, right in the trailer, she does a floss dance. That's got to be worth at least one more point.
I mean, that's where the half came from.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Next one on the list we got was Knock at the Cabin. Who saw Knock at the Cabin? Did both of you see that?
Aye.
Okay. Mike, go ahead. What do you got for Knock at the Cabin?
Some men just want to watch the world burn, and I'm one of them. 5 out of 10.
All right, Josh, Knock at the Cabin. What do you got?
That's a very clever review from Mike, given what the plot is about. So kudos to him. I give Mike a 6 for that review.
A 6. You said it was very clever. Come on.
It was. You got to have incentive to figure. To
That's a
keep
D.
going. I would say it was a little bit more straightforward than I was expecting, but it was for what it was executed pretty well. I always have my worries, as I've mentioned before, about M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I'd say this one was like middle of the road. There's not really I'd say it's a bit maybe underwhelming, but it's not let's just say it's not Lady in the Water, it's not The Happening. It's okay. It's okay. I'll go with like a 5 on this as well.
On this one, I would say if you want to know more, Josh and I will be recording a horror podcast very soon, and we will talk more about this. But this movie, M. Night Shyamalan did not write, so that is why it is not his typical style. This is based off of an old novel.
So he only directed this. He didn't write it.
I mean, made a screenplay for it, but it is
Gotcha.
based off of an original novel that
Okay.
he did not write. If you want to know more about that, we'll talk about it on the horror episode.
Yeah, we think we'll hopefully get that to you guys within the next like 2 to 3 weeks. That's what we're aiming for.
Next we got, which I think we might have even covered when we did the What's Up With You, but Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Also PSA for anyone interested, streaming on Disney Plus May 17th, so that is coming up. Mike and Josh, you guys both saw that one, right?
Yes.
I think we saw it together, didn't we?
Okay. I say this all the time. I never remember who I see movies with. So when you ask, like, don't you remember? I don't. Let's just assume that I don't remember anything.
To be fair, I know that I saw it with Josh.
Okay.
I'm not certain on whether you were there or not.
Yeah, I
think so.
I don't remember.
But
We'd have to compare ticket stubs or something and see where we're at. Josh, for Ant-Man, what do you got?
I think it's I'll start by this really quick. I think it's very telling that for this show, we did not do a full review episode for this movie. So let's start with that. It was fine. I think it suffers from one big creative choice, one big plot choice, which I could get into later if people want to hear anything further. I think I might like it a little bit better on a rewatch, but I'll say this, my opinions of the Ant-Man movies are well documented on this show over the last 8 years.
Hates them.
It's nearly there, yeah. Just very, very underwhelmed and kind of feel like, why did we need that? This, I feel like, had the strongest voice of any of the three.
Okay.
So I guess I would say it's my favorite of the three, or it's the best, in my opinion, of the three of the ants. Doesn't go really high on my list, so unfortunately I think for Ant-Man it's only coming in at like maybe a 5.5 or 6.
It's still higher than I expected for you, so I'm surprised there.
Trying to be generous for the things that were positive.
Mike, Ant-Man.
My one sentence I have written down here is better than the second movie, not as good as the first. 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's actually about where I'm falling too. I think it's still fun. It felt like it's just Kang set up for, but who knows where that's going to go considering everything's going on with Jonathan Majors now. So we'll see. I still
Kang
think the movie's
multiverse, he can be different.
That's true. Yeah.
Just go with it.
I still think the movie's good, but I think I'm falling sort of where Mike is. I think it's better than number 2. I don't think it's better than number 1. I'll have to rewatch it to be sure, so I'm definitely going to rewatch it once it hits Disney Plus and see where I stand. So the rating could change after another viewing, but for right now, 6.5 out of 10. So I'm right there with Mike. Next one we got is Cocaine Bear, which I think you two saw, correct?
Of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Not recommended for you.
Yeah.
For certain.
Mike, what do you got for Cocaine Bear?
An absolute blast. Would recommend. 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Was there a movie or a bear or something involved in that? I don't really remember. 10 out of 10 though, man. It was fucking great.
Josh, what do you got for Cocaine Bear?
I guess it's going to sound weird. I think I was hoping that it was even slightly more than I was expecting or thinking it would be, and it absolutely was not. It did
No,
not.
it's titled correctly.
It is, but really, whatever you think it is all that it is. It doesn't bring anything else. I think, it is not a movie that needed to be made for theaters. If this had been like this otherwise would have been like you're scrolling through like the previous shitty B movies on Amazon Prime and you come across Cocaine Bear. That's where it belongs. It wasn't as much of wasn't that just so silly and fun experience for me? Necessarily, I don't know. I wanted it to be a little bit more than just the baseness that it was. Because I feel like they could have done, I don't know, just been more creative, I suppose. So, Cocaine Bear gets a 2.
Yeah, I feel like it was if Sharknado got a budget and a serious writer.
Kind of,
and not taking it like tried to take itself semi-seriously with a good writer and a budget.
So I know he's not here, but Ian I know saw this as well, and I'm pretty sure he's the one that told me he hated it. Like it was one of the worst things he's seen in a while, which is saying something for him. I thought this would be right up his alley, so I was very surprised from that review from him.
Obviously my 10 out of 10 was not serious. I
I
want to
took
make
it
that
seriously.
clear.
I didn't know.
I absolutely thought you
the
were
cocaine
serious.
was a 10 out of 10. The movie.
So what is your review for Cocaine Bear? Because I was going to go with 10 out of 10.
like as an actual number, like I was just making a joke. Like I said, I tried to do the one sentence laugh thing. That was all I went for there. But
it landed.
Yeah, maybe. It was okay. Like it's something Ray Liotta can be proud of going out on.
So what is your actual 10 out of 10 rate, or out of 10? What is your rating?
I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
It was fun enough for a really stupid movie.
Fair. All right, next one we got Creed 3. Did either of you guys see Creed 3? No from Mike. Yes from Josh. All right, Josh.
I did.
What did you think of Creed 3?
Definitely a very respectable directorial debut from Michael B. Jordan. There's some choices made from like a cinematography standpoint that were really cool. I think the story structure could have been strengthened by things getting moved around a little bit. It's sort of a bit of a too unbelievable story that I don't yet have the emotional buy-in to that they want me to quick enough. But had it been, like I said, restructured a bit and some things happened slightly differently, just some tweaking, I think it could have been much, much better. Now, to be fair, I have not seen either of the first two Creeds in a very long time. I think I only saw each of them once. So I don't necessarily want to say that this is better or worse than either of those. This was enjoyable. It was not bad. Like if you liked those other two at all, make sure you finish off the series with this.
Did you give it out of 10? What do you thought?
I'll give it a 6. Actually, I'll give it a 7.
Okay.
We'll go 7.
Yeah, I think echoing what you said, I think Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, I think, was really well done. I know the movie tries really hard not to let me think about it, but there were numerous times when I had to just ask, like, where's Rocky? Like, this is the perfect moment for him to have some sort of emotional beat in here, or a heart-to-heart conversation, and it's just, you just completely ignored the entire movie, so that I felt the absence, even though I think the movie didn't want me to. Overall, I still think it's really good. I'd still might rank it better than 2. 1 is still the best one in this trilogy, by far. Creed 3, I'm giving 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we got Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Mike, I don't think you said you didn't see this one either. Josh, did you see Shazam?
We did.
Go ahead. What do you think
first?
of Shazam?
I'm sad it didn't perform better. I think the writing in these two Shazam movies, is really good. We did rewatch the first one before going to see this, and I hadn't seen the first one. I think I saw it twice in theaters, and that was it. So I haven't watched it in like 4 years. The first one is a lot better than it gets credit for.
Yeah,
I think the writing and the storytelling is actually really good. I think there's so much that they need to juggle when you start having a family, and then I mean, this isn't spoilers because there's a first one that exists. Like, the rest of the family becomes heroes too. So like now you have all these personalities to juggle. You have motivations. It's a lot to satisfy the existence of everything interplaying. I think I don't know. I think they could have found ways to strengthen it a bit, though I don't have any specific notes for that. I'm sad that it seems like this is the end. I think if they had, one more stretch on the runway, they could have landed something really, really well by finishing a trilogy. So I'll say I would say give it time. It'll probably be on HBO Max pretty soon. So if you didn't catch it in theaters, find a Redbox or HBO Max or something and give it a shot. I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's...
By the time it's there, it might be Max, though, by the way.
That's true.
It might just be Max.
Yeah, I think I'm falling in line with you. I think the tone felt a little bit more serious in the first one, at least from what I could tell. I liked all the family dynamics and stuff that was juggling around. The villains are mostly forgettable, just kind of like the first one. The internet spoiled the cameo for me, so I'm still kind of pissed about that. Echoing what you said, I'm sad it didn't make a lot of money because I would like to see another movie with this character again or see him pop up somewhere else, but I don't know if we're going to get that based on how everything performed at the box office. But 7 out of 10 is where I'm landing for this one as well.
From what both of you said, it sounds like it's just a not as good version of Fast X. So I heard a lot of family talk.
There's a lot of family stuff.
I'm just putting that out there.
Next up, John Wick Chapter 4. Mike, did you see that one? No?
So I attempted to see it. This is actually a fun story. I will give it just a very brief. Was in the theater watching, and the theater lost power, and I got a voucher.
Okay.
From the theater. I got the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Nice. Okay.
And then the power went out, and I have not gone back to see it again because it was just like I had time on a day, and it was like, sure, I'll go do it, and then I got screwed basically. Like, it sucked.
Yeah, that does suck.
I've never had that happen any other time.
Well, at least you got the voucher.
Where the whole theater actually lost power. Yeah, I can go watch a movie at Pittsburgh Mills whenever the hell I want. Yay for their shitty. Don't get me wrong, it's a theater, but it's not great. Yeah, so it is what it is.
Josh, did you see this one?
Yes, we did.
You want to go? Or you want me to go?
You go.
All right. John Wick 4. I mean, continues to do more awesome John Wick shit. Beginning is a little slow. I think the back half really picks up. Donnie Yen and Fat Ben Affleck stand out to me in the movie. 9 out of 10.
I'd agree with the actor call-outs there. I remember saying after John Wick 3 that the last 20 minutes of John Wick 3 is so confusing as to who is betraying who is lying about who they're betraying, who is double dealing, when you just watched a whole movie about somebody trying to avoid something. He goes through the entire movie trying to do a thing, and then in the last 20 minutes, intentionally unravels it. So yeah. I didn't, and then it also ends with I don't know who hates who anymore.
I have served. I will be of service.
So it's going into this, it's almost like they ignored all that. There's elements of that, but they basically told a much more personal story. They narrow into John and very specific people that he's going to be interacting with and that he's going to be affecting, and sort of the larger, the table and the people who belong to it and the people above the table and the people who are that whole mystique of the people behind the curtain kind of goes away, I think, but in really good ways. I think it helped to clear some of the noise. All I can say is staircase. Just goddamn.
But my only question is, does Braun of the Blackwater get his balls sewn back on and move into high water? Or High Garden, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know.
He does not show up in this. That Brian, that's a Game of Thrones reference.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's way over my head.
The guy who Halle Berry's dog.
Get that man a castle.
Who runs the Casablanca hotel place that he goes to. Yeah. He's the minter. He's the treasurer. Yeah, her dogs bite his nuts off. No, that is not
one of the best characters in all of Game of Thrones. Top 3.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Out of 10, Josh, for John Wick.
I'll go 8.
Okay.
What did you give it, Brian?
9.
9. Okay.
And I don't know the actor that is in the fat suit for the card game that they have in the middle section of the movie, but to me he looked like Fat Ben Affleck, and I couldn't unsee that as soon as that idea popped in my head. And
see, when you said that, I was thinking Fat Ben Affleck. What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, it's not Ben Affleck.
I was honestly thinking it was Ben Affleck in a fat suit.
But it just looks like
Tom
Ben Affleck
Cruise
in a fat suit, and I couldn't unsee that, and it stayed with me the rest of the movie.
Yeah, what was that movie? Why am I blanking on that name?
When Ryan Reynolds?
Tom Cruise in the fat suit in the Ben
Tropic
Stiller
Thunder.
and Robert Tropic Thunder. Yeah, that's what went through my mind was something like that with Ben Affleck.
Next up, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Mike, you said you didn't get to this one, right? Josh did or didn't? Did. Okay. I'll let you have this one.
This was fun. I wish they had stopped putting trailers out way earlier, because every time they put so much new material in each of the trailers that I felt like I saw half the movie before it. And there was very little surprise in the story, some of the scenes. I'm sure there would have been some jokes that landed a lot better. But other than that, especially if you're going into it kind of cold and you hadn't seen some of that, or you don't, your brain works better than mine and you don't retain these things as much, you'll have a really good time. I thought this was just a really good fantasy popcorn flick.
Out of 10, what do you give it?
We'll go 7.5.
Okay. I think we're hitting pretty close with everybody here. I'm also going to just bury the lead and give it a 7.5, I think, as well. It is a fun movie. I don't think it took itself too seriously, which I liked. Action was cool. I really enjoyed the world that they set up. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I do feel like the movie, I walked out and still kind of slightly forgot everything that I just saw, but it's definitely something I will rewatch. I liked it enough that I will pick this up on Blu-ray and watch it again. So I'm hoping it did well enough at the box office to get a sequel. So 7.5 for me.
That is true. Yeah.
So one question.
So real quick, it is fun. Definitely has a good rewatchability factor.
I have one question. Does somebody inexplicably either fail or succeed at something that they shouldn't fail or succeed at based on inexplicable reasons that are a dice roll? Does a moment like that happen where it's you rolled a 0 even though you should succeed?
Yeah, at the top of my head, I can't think of that, but
I know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It doesn't really seem like they tried, obviously, without something like that being so explicit. I think a lot of that is sort of manifested through Chris Pine's character almost the whole time.
Okay, that's fair.
In a way,
don't tell me more. I don't want spoilers.
No. Yeah, it's sort of elements of that spirit are kind of there.
Honestly, since the newest Mortal Kombat movie did the leg sweeping thing, I'm just hoping more stupid shit that happens in the games that we play makes it into movies in creative ways.
I think the story had a lot more heart than I was expecting too, so that kind of surprised me.
Agreed.
I feel like that's a sticking point for Chris Pine movies.
What? Having heart in the story
that you don't expect to be there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You don't expect it, and then but it's a Chris Pine movie, so it's oh man, you don't expect that to be there, but then all of a sudden you're damn, that worked.
Yeah. I like Chris Pine a lot.
When I finally get around to watching The Outlaw King, I'll let you know.
Oh, you're going to see a lot more Chris Pine than you want.
Oh, I know it's there. Real quick sidebar. I rewatched Smokin' Aces 2 weeks ago, and I forgot Chris Pine is in that. And he is a fresh, baby-faced little guy, but he's also this kind of neo-Nazi redneck punk.
Oh,
so you almost if you didn't know it was him, you might not even know it was him.
Something to look out for.
Yeah,
Christopher Maloney cameo in Harold and Kumar.
Yeah, along those lines. But in terms of having the feel good having to be there, Smokin' Aces, not quite.
Well, I wouldn't call that a Chris Pine movie, though. He's
Agreed.
not the focus of the movie.
Yeah. All right, sidebar.
All right, last one we got Super Mario Brothers. Mike, you said you did not get to this one, right? Also, okay,
Exactly.
Josh, you did.
Yep.
Go ahead. You can take this one first.
I thought it was cute. I've said this to you guys ahead of time. I stopped playing video games basically after Super Nintendo. I played a little bit of some Mario things, maybe on Wii at times or something, but anything that's happened in that world building, I'm sure there was a lot of references and Easter eggs and a bunch of stuff that was completely lost to me that would have enhanced some of it for me. But at the same time, they were also making a kid's movie. I feel like it didn't feel like it was really caring to make a gamer fan movie. It was a kid's movie.
Mario's games are kids' games. Like
Yeah.
we play them as adults because we grew up with them, but they're made for kids still. So that's fair.
So
That's what they should have made.
It didn't really seem like they went hardcore on 35 years of lore and info and Easter eggs and all that stuff for it to make sense to people and whatnot. So it was fun. It was a good time. I'll give it a 7.
Okay. I agree. It's also definitely a kids movie. But holy shit, do I love this movie. The animation, the characters are great. The music, it's alone. There's so many little like cues from every single Mario video game that are hit at the right exact time during the score. It's fucking great. There are a lot of Easter eggs, I think, for some video game stuff that's in there. I saw it twice. I cannot wait to watch this again. This story is very simple, but I think it's tons of fun, especially if you grew up with Mario and playing the video games. 9.5 out of 10 for me.
See, and I can just chime in with things I've heard. You know what I mean? Like I know that there's supposedly a Jack Black solo song of sorts, and right there I'm sold. Like I don't like, it doesn't matter if it's as Bowser who he plays in that, or it's just Jack Black doing a song that's unique for a movie. I'm in.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what the movie is or what the song. I'm there.
You're gonna like it.
So I'm all for it. But also, Josh, I will tell you,
yeah.
Is Daisy in the movie, Brian?
No, it's just Peach.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, if Daisy was in the movie, it's like I've played all the Mario games. I still really don't understand Daisy's presence. But now you have no idea what I'm talking about because you saw the movie and she's not there, and you haven't played any of the games with her in it. So now it's even more confusing.
I mean, I'm sure she'll show up in the sequel, right? I would have to.
And that movie made enough money that it's definitely going to have a sequel. If
it didn't make
sequels.
$1 billion, then it's got to be close. I might have to look at that real quick.
I think it soared past $1 billion.
Okay.
Real fast.
Yeah, I know it was definitely getting
real
up there.
fast. As far as I understood, it was the highest earning animated movie, maybe pushing ever at this point, because the Asian market for it was insane.
Yeah, it's over $1 billion worldwide. $1.1 billion right now.
Yeah.
So that is by far getting a sequel. We're definitely getting. I'm curious if it kicks off like a whole Nintendo multiverse of movies, or if we're just going to get a Super Mario Brothers 2 and that's going to be it. But we'll see. Either way, I'm here for it.
I figure Mario 3's got to be like the send-off, right? The big grand finale, since it's, the game and whatever. As long as we get Wario at some point, I don't know if he's in this one or not, but I got to hear a live-action Wahoo out of somebody.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so that concludes our rapid-fire reviews, which took probably 25 to 30 minutes. It's not very rapid-fire, but we'll work on it the next time.
Hey, for the volume,
this is the first time doing it. And to be fair, we covered 5 months with this. We should be covering shorter time frames,
So we'll refine it if we need to, but we'll see. Yeah. For right now, I think we did cover a lot of the back catalog.
And as a small little tease for Mike and I's upcoming more extensive horror movie review and rundown, I know I could chime in on such recent films as Renfield, Jeepers Creepers Reborn, Evil Dead Rise, Scream 6, among others. Mike probably can some of those as well, and others I haven't seen. So keep your ears peeled and your eyes to all of our stuff, and we'll have that out soon for you.
And don't forget, we'll also be previewing some of the upcoming horror films that you might want to check out in theaters. There's a lot of them coming up, and I'm sure we'll have an update sometime getting close to October, where we give you that real horror season preview. But there is horror movies coming out this summer that you're not going to want to miss, and we're going to talk about those too.
Nice. All right, so that's it for this one, for at least the rapid fire review stuff. If you want us to go into detail on any of the ones we talked about for another episode, let us know. We can always come back and circle back around. Look forward to their horror episode to get more of the horror movie reviews a little bit more in depth. But for now, we'll go on to our main topic, which was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So typically, again, what we do for these is we'll talk generally spoiler-free at the top, and then we'll give you spoiler warning, and then we'll get into the details and spoilery things we would talk about. So even before we sort of talk generally, I was trying to look at the box office for this one. So what I saw was Guardians 3 opened to 118 million domestic in the first weekend. Total domestic currently is 138 million, sitting right now at a worldwide total of $344 million. budget that I saw was listed at $250 million. So this is kind of like a good but not great right now for the box office. So we'll see if this movie has legs. This coming weekend, really at the time we're recording, and right by the time this episode drops, it'll be after the second weekend, so we won't know right now how it does. But we'll see what kind of legs it has in the second weekend. By its third weekend out, it will be competing with Fast X. So I don't know how well that, if it doesn't have a good bump the second weekend out, the third weekend it's going to probably get hit with people seeing Fast X. So I don't know how much it's going to rebound or do after that, but we'll wait and see. Based on the box office numbers, what do you guys think? Do you think this is a good sign for the movie? You think it'll break a little bit higher? Or do you think
today's Thursday. It came out last Friday, so we're a week in. And you said total was 344 something
right now.
So 340 million in a week. I really don't know a lot about like weekly opening totals, but it seems about what I would have expected. Given the trend of Marvel movies lately being slightly underperforming to what they used to be. They like pre-Infinity War and Endgame, everything was leading up to this huge moment and everybody knew what was coming, and the movies did gangbusters because it was all leading up to this one thing. Right now, people don't know what the hell everything's leading up to.
Yeah.
And it's just a movie. So in that respect, I feel like it's doing fine. And, I think if I had to guess, it'll end around 700,
700?
Somewhere in that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Isn't it usually double the opening week is the final total in?
It might be maybe a decent rule of thumb, maybe. Because when Ant-Man came out, that did not break 500 million worldwide.
It was also very poorly received.
Right.
I remember, the reviews for Guardians are very good. It's just the box office seems a little underperforming compared to reviews right now, as far as what I would think.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
Good reviews.
Like I think you'll see. I mean, typically, like the drop off between first and second week is usually like 60%.
Yeah,
at least. So they might make another 150 million. So they might start hitting that 500 million mark. But after that, I don't know what it's gonna do and how well. Because just this, this part of the summer is when you start getting a lot of the other blockbusters. Like Fast X is, regardless of what you think of that movie, it's going to make gangbusters. Like that is going to fly past, I think, Guardians 3 very quickly. And I'm not saying, domestically it might underperform, but internationally, I think Fast X is going to blow Guardians out of the water.
Fast X is going to make over $1 billion because it's internationally. That's just what they do.
Yeah,
it's the Asian market on Fast and the Furious movies is bonkers.
For as much as we joke about that franchise and how fucking weird and like out off the wall it gets, those movies are sitting in the top 10, 15 movies of all time at the box office. Some of them, like, it is insane how much money those fucking movies make.
As a thespian, you might be a bit off-put by those movies, but they're fun and they're entertaining and they are big budget craziness that goes on. And it's the same reason the Transformers movies perform well. It is just pure blockbuster, brainless action.
Like the fumes coming out of his ears from like, God damn it, these two goddamn franchises. Why? Yeah. Why do they exist?
Listen, if you don't understand the family, you don't understand the family. It's fine. It's fine. Not everybody can get it. But it's that over-the-top action that draws in the Asian market. For whatever reason, things that have that high budget over-the-top action draw that market in and make them a lot of money. If you look at the market here, it's much lower. Like they make it's got to be like 80% of their box office is made overseas. Most movies make most of their box office here, but a few franchises are so popular elsewhere that they're just sustained, and they're going to keep it coming. Like, there's going to be Fast and the Furious offshoots once Vin Diesel's done with it.
Yeah, probably.
Because they make so much money. It's just Transformers, same thing. They're just going to keep making them if they keep making money.
Josh, what do you think of the box office so far for Guardians? Is this underperforming, or you think this is on track?
I think this is nothing to be worried about yet at all. I think one of the possible explanations to the general trends that Mike was talking about, though, not just with Marvel or anything, is just movies the last couple of years. COVID will always be a wild card in the explanation of historical study on the effect of many things. But at the same time, Disney launches Disney Plus in November of 2019. HBO launches Max, the spring of 21? I think, maybe even...
Sounds right.
Without looking it
Yeah,
up, I couldn't tell you, so sure, yes.
it was before that, but not long, because I remember Kong vs. Godzilla was on there.
Was
at
one of
launch,
the first. Yeah,
and
that's
that was
true.
March 2021.
That's true.
So
it's like around the beginning of
neighborhood.
2021, let's say. And every single one of them, like it started with Redbox, actually. It was, how fast can we get these things out on DVD? How fast can we get these things to Redbox? How fast can we get them back to our own streaming service? They shot themselves in the foot because a big chunk of the reason many people might not be bothering with Ant-Man is, well, I might not like it that much, but I might have to wait a year to see it on a streaming service, or I might have to wait 6 months. Oh no, I have to wait 2.5 months. I have to wait 30 days. I have to wait 45 days.
It was 45, right, for Disney stuff before Ant-Man. It looks like, at least this drop, looks like it was the full 90-day window, like February to...
It's one of the first, but like
and
most...
It's going to be longer for Avatar, by the way. Avatar still does not have a date to be on Disney.
The
Way of the Water or whatever.
Yeah.
They're waiting even longer. I don't know when that's going to show up.
But there's some things that I think, and Guardians might a little bit be, and it might, I don't want to say suffering, but like everything probably is. Movie audiences have already adjusted to the idea of assuming that if they pay for 2 or 3 or 4 of these streaming services, it will be somewhere within 2 or 3 months, and they're already paying for it, so they don't care as much about the theater experience, so they're just going to wait. But, for some context, okay, so I got Box Office Mojo up. The first Guardians opens in August 2014, a budget of $170 million, domestic opening $94 million, ends its run with $333 domestic, worldwide at $773. Volume 2, budget goes up to $200 million, has a domestic opening of $146. What was the domestic?
Bigger than this one's
opening?
Right?
Yeah, did you say it was like around 130? The high
138.
130s?
So this one came under Guardians 2.
Slightly under Guardians 2.
Not by a lot, but
but a little bit. And it ended its domestic run at 389, worldwide 863. So neither of the Guardians were the $1 billion club. They did absolutely respectably worldwide, but I think after just one weekend of release, they're already at basically their current worldwide is about equal to what both of their ending domestic totals were for the first two after just the first weekend. Because they were around, 330, 335 right now?
You're talking worldwide right now?
Yeah.
Worldwide right now is 344.
44. Okay, so yeah, it's even better position. So yeah, the budget on this ballooned up a bit. I mean, this is not that the other ones weren't, but there's a really effects heavy movie, and I'm sure the actors' salaries, many of them got a big bump from a few to the next. I mean, some characters became bigger and more important, so maybe they decided I got more screen time and I count more. Those things can play in. I wouldn't be as worried.
It's also longer.
Yeah.
It's a half an hour longer than the other Guardians movies.
It's probably going to, Brian, I think you're right. It's going to end, hopefully, at least at the 700 mark. If it doesn't, I think some of the other things we're mentioning are the explanatory factors, not as much of a reflection of the quality of the movie. I think it's more of a trend of industry and people.
I think it's superhero fatigue a little bit too.
That too.
If it
Yeah.
if it goes that way, we're at the point now where we're getting close to 30 of these Marvel movies.
Oh, we're there.
I also think the release
this was
window.
32.
This was 32.
This was
okay,
32.
So yeah, we're at 32 Marvel movies. Like it's gonna start to fatigue people.
Well, I feel like
that
the
aren't as
release
into
window
it.
could have been improved too. Like, if you ever want a movie to make money, you never release it in May on top of all the other big movies that are coming out in May. First one was August, right?
Yep.
Second one I think was May, so it actually did pretty good
weekend.
in May.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I would have put this in August. Like, if you catch the tail end of the summer, there's nothing out there. You could have had a whole month in the theater for this, and you could have probably had more legs with it.
Possibly.
And had stuff not around it.
The Marvel release schedule, because they have Marvels coming out
in November,
and,
but they didn't have anything in August. They typically, I thought, did like a May and then July, August.
Marvels was initially supposed to be July.
Okay.
Yeah. So that it was a shift around kind of thing that.
So yeah, it still comes down to Marvel has their tentpoles where they need something February, May, end of summer-ish, and then in November
agree with you, though.
Somewhere in there.
If someone can go fact check me and tell me later, I think the first Guardians is the only MCU movie to ever open in like an off month of like something like August. I think Thunderbolts might be set to do it next year, if that still holds, if that release date still holds.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But that also might have moved. But generally, yeah, they've never really tried that. I think
they've done a lot of Julys, but yeah, I don't know about August.
Yeah, because that first year, 2014, Winter Soldier was, I want to say, April, and then because that was like the second year that they released more than one movie in a year. So they were probably a little gun shy.
The first while there, it was slow.
Yeah, like gun shy. Like, well, Guardians isn't really a Christmas movie. It's not sci-fi enough to be Star Wars. We're not going to put it out in October. All right, I guess it's going to be August. And yeah, I agree with you. It's a nice sweet spot. But I don't know. I think we're reading not that we're reading too much into it, but I wouldn't read too much into the first week performance on anything yet.
If I'm picking a number, I'm thinking this ends around 600, 650. I don't know if it's going to hit the 700 mark. I hope I'm wrong, but just I think based on box office trends and the way certain I'm hoping that the movie sticks around in theaters longer than I think it's going to. I'm just afraid it's going to get pushed out by other stuff coming through the summer, and it's just not going to get, because I don't know how. Granted, it still gets most of its box office from international, but I don't know how international theaters are gonna hold on to it, and if how much money it's gonna make over there. But I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just taking an underestimate and then hoping I'm wrong and it goes over than vice versa. I'd rather go pick under and then have it go over than try to pick too high and then it falls short.
I'm with you.
All right, so just kind of spoiler-free general discussions. Mike, what did you think about the movie generally?
Spoiler-free thoughts on it. I really liked it, even though I thought I wasn't going to about halfway through.
Okay.
All right. Interesting thought.
I'm trying to, again, spoiler-free is tough for me on this because there's a lot I want to say, but I gotta confine it and bring it into, it's really good. It's, to me, I would put this as my second favorite in the series. I'd put it over 2, but under the first one. Not to diminish the second one in any way. I genuinely think these are 3 fantastic movies. But if I was going to order them, that's how I would order it, and that would be my guiding point for you if you've seen the other 2.
Okay.
I think this is better than 2, but not as good as 1.
Josh, where do you stand?
Right when we came out of the theater after the first viewing, I think a few people in the group said something similar in terms of the rankings of the 3. And I think for me personally, Brian, I think I said it to you actually, that there's so much in the themes that I connect to personally with Volume 2, that it'll be difficult for anything like like Volume 2 is in my top 5 of the MCU. That's like how much it means to me. I love that freaking movie. Um, I I kind of understand. I think Mike's sentiment. There were pieces of the story choices, that I mean, this isn't a spoiler, right? To say that Adam Warlock's in the movie.
No, I don't think.
Okay.
He
He's
was
in the
enough
trailer.
of the
Okay.
like,
So I
there's
didn't
enough going on
didn't
there.
watch the trailers, but it was, part of the Volume 2 tags that I presumed they put that out there so people would know. Specifically, like most of the Adam storyline, I was very confused as to why it was happening and why it was there. So that kind of led me to like what I don't really understand what the central themes were other than the obvious ones.
Yeah.
So I agree with Mike in that I feel like the first half of the movie was a bit shaky to me. But the second half just brings it home in like every way. I saw this a second time the very next day. So I saw this back to back 2 days in a row. I liked it a lot more the second time because the story that I got, the movie that I was presented with, is nothing like I've been preparing myself for 6 years, or even for like 3 or 4 years since like say Endgame. So I think I was just taken aback by what there was so much time spent on one central plot point and so little that seemed to be unimportant. That it just wasn't the movie that I thought it was, built up to be from the last couple of years. So once I got over that and saw it the second time, and then I could just take it for what it was. It really sank in, and I actually liked it a lot more the second time. I don't know what else I could say right now yet.
Okay. Yeah, I think I really liked it too. I will very much agree. It's definitely better than 2 for me. I'm trying to figure out if this might be my favorite, and I feel like I'd have to watch them all again to be sure. But I feel like I came out really, really liking this one, and I don't know. Visually, I think it's the best looking out of all of them. There's a couple action sequences in this that I think are directed really, really fucking well. Like if you thought some of the Daredevil hallway scenes were good in that show, this movie has a hallway scene that is really, really fucking cool, and I absolutely love it. There's a lot more, I think, of an emotional punch in this one, at least for me. Like, I know Josh said the second one really hits hard for him, but this one, I think, out of the 3, hits me the most emotionally out of the other 2. And it sprinkles it in. Like there's moments where it hits you at different times in different ways, and then but it kind of just builds towards the end, where I feel like the emotional gut punches that happen in the other 2 movies are just kind of saved until one moment, and then they hit you, and then you're good. Well, 2 might have a couple, but I think it's more of like save it and then it's there, and this one I think sprinkles it in a little bit more. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I think it worked really well. And I don't know if there's anything, like I said, more to Josh's point with like specifically Adam. Like, I don't know why that character was there. Like, based on how 2 kind of set him up, I expected him to have a bigger role. I was a little disappointed there. But I think everybody else in the cast and all the other characters are really cool. I thought the High Evolutionary was really cool. I think they're a very good villain for this movie. But yeah, we can get into specifics when we get to spoilers, but I think that's all I got for general stuff.
And I would add, I'll get into it more, but for some of the reasons that Josh had said about personal things, that there's personal things for me that we'll get into when spoilers come up and we're talking about everything that made this movie harder to watch for me than for most people. So it was not necessarily in the same, I guess, positive light maybe that Guardians 2 worked for Josh. It was hard for me to watch a good portion of this movie.
Okay. Yeah, then we'll just move into spoilers unless anybody has anything else. So general spoiler free. I think we could all say, yeah, if you're curious about the movie, go see it. Like that's our general free recommendation. Go check it out, see for yourself. And then after you see it, you can listen to the rest of this podcast and see what we thought when we get into the nitty gritty. So again, time to go to spoilers. If you have not seen Guardians 3 and do not want spoiled, pause this now. Come back after seeing the film. If you don't like surprises and would rather listen anyway, that's your prerogative. Not recommended, but hey, you do you. Last warning: spoilers to follow.
Wee spoiler. Wee spoiler. Something like that.
All right, so we're spoiler talking now. The first thing I want to mention is James Gunn snuck in the first Marvel F-bomb in the MCU, which kind of surprises the hell out of me.
If you listen closely, he also snuck in the first C-bomb.
In this movie?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, then I didn't hear that.
When the High Evolutionary corrects Rocket on the way that he says can't. And he tells him, no, it's can't. And Rocket looks right at him, and it's Rocket. And he says cunt. And we wait. I'm just going to
ignore
stop.
it. Just keep going.
All right. He looks right at him, and he says cunt. And it's Rocket. It's the character that would do it. It's the character's attitude and the way he would say it without even maybe knowing the word at that point. I'm telling you, James Gunn and Lloyd Kaufman had a bet on whether James Gunn could get cunt into a Disney movie. And he did it. My opinion. You're never going to have that confirmed unless it's a long time from now and he's like, yeah, we definitely had Bradley say cunt on that one.
I'd have to listen to it again. I guess I didn't catch it.
I've also said that word more times than it's ever been said on this podcast in this last couple of minutes, and I'm sorry for that. I'm just making the point that he definitely...
Josh, we need a deciding vote here. Did James Gunn sneak the C word in there too, or no?
I will say that I cannot... I cannot, in good conscience, accept that they actually did that. I will, however, say, having seen the movie twice, that moment specifically still confused me because I don't know what he is correcting, because it's not like Rocket misused grammar in the moment. He uses the contraction of cannot, and then the High Evolutionary also uses the contraction of cannot. So I don't know what he's correcting him.
I feel like it's just like that high class accent. He wants him to use the...
Maybe that's it, right? But I don't know. After, I'm sure there's another moment we're going to talk about that. Given that happens, I doubt that they were also trying to do this.
Any director but James Gunn, I would agree and say there's no way he wouldn't try to do that. They wouldn't do that. James Gunn would try to do that. He would try. I'm not saying he did, but if any director they were going to have in the MCU was going to do it, it's him.
My vote would be no, but I do plan on seeing this at least one more time in theaters, definitely. So I will try to really hone my ears at that moment.
Josh, I don't know if you dropped for it, but I said, the one thing that surprised me was James Gunn sneaking in the F-bomb in this movie for an MCU movie.
It was a great moment, too.
First one out of 32 movies.
Okay, so I had a coworker, like 2 days before going to see the movie, who did not... I don't know where he heard this. I don't know if there's like a tease of this in the trailers. I don't know, because I avoid everything. He says to me, he's very general and he's very cryptic, but he says that they're going to there's going to be something that they've never done in any of these movies before. I won't tell you anything more because I know you... And all my mind, like there's three things my mind went to, and this was one of them. And I wish I had not even had that potential idea in my head, because it would have hit
F-bomb, nudity.
Yes, actually, yes.
Something else.
Yeah, like I don't even remember what but I'm like, what else could it be? Because they kind of had like a sort of sex scene, love-making scene in a way in Eternals. But
we saw Chris Hemsworth's ass in Love and Thunder, so
yep,
nudity,
right? So there you go. There, it depends.
In Ragnarok, you saw Hulk's ass as
well. That too,
right?
And you almost caught dong in that one. They made a dick joke in Ragnarok. They didn't show
Right,
it,
right,
but
right.
They made a dick joke.
They circumvented. Yeah. So I wish he hadn't even said that, because that moment would have hit so much better for me, just out of the blue, without even thinking it was a possibility. But I do like that it was almost. It was. I appreciate that it was not a significant moment. It was
they don't dwell on it. It's a throwaway joke.
Completely, yeah. And that was like, oh, okay, you're gonna do that and just move on. That's good. Okay.
It's one of those things where you don't expect.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't expect the F-bomb in a Marvel movie, so suddenly you're just like, you do a double take, like, wait, did he just say that? Did they just get away with that? That just happened?
Yeah.
I feel like that moment was very much. If you don't know the moment that we're referring to, it's when he tells Nebula to open the fucking door. If you forgot that moment, if you had seen it, I feel like that's a moment that, like, we're getting older, and it's older millennials and Gen X dealing with Gen Z being like, how does the door work? And, just having this very simple mechanical thing that's just completely foreign to somebody that understands all this advanced technology. But a simple thing is a button and a latch. They're just like, what? What do I do? And the frustration that he goes through in those
and the
juxtaposition moments of trying to explain it.
The juxtaposition of not really Nebula being the stand-in for Gen Z all the time, but in that moment, sort of, in the analogy you're creating, so high tech, Rocket, modifies her even further, and she literally can turn her arm into an arm cannon, all of that. But right, the simplest of mechanical creations, push button in, hold it, and pull handle. I love that moment where he's just inside the door. No, I think you're pressing the keyhole. Push the button in under the handle. Yes, very, very well taken.
And of all the things, that's what gets the great cameo of Super Mario to throw the F-bomb in the movie for us. That was one of my favorite things about this movie, was Super Mario was in it, by the way.
I'm really curious. I'd like to see if the F-bomb joke was written, or if that's just Chris Pratt riffing and they just kept it. Because I could see either way.
Possibly.
It's good in either scenario.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. All right, so we get, like, this. This movie is, for all intents and purposes, James Gunn's swan song. Like, he's moving on to DC after this. We don't expect to get him back. He's pretty much, if the timetable stays the same, he's pretty much locked into being in charge of DC for like 10 years as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would put it 4 at most, and then DC replans again because Warner Brothers isn't happy with the success, and they do the same shit they always do.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Depends how this first Superman movie, I guess, takes off and how it does. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to go with what is on the page right now. And on the page right now is he's gone for 10 years. So this is going to be it for him. So what do we think of?
Well, and in that context, let's point out that when he was initially fired by Disney in 2019, 2020, all of the cast, every single major player in this movie, some of them very, very vocally, Dave Bautista probably more than any of them, was not shy. It literally said publicly, put out a statement. It was known that if at the least, if Gunn's script was not even going to be used, he was going to request to be let out of his contract. He did not even want to do the movie if Gunn was not going to be the director, and if that was the case, if his script wasn't even going to be used. So they wanted to be a part of this, regardless of how much they did or did not know at that point when that was all occurring. They knew that they wanted to be a part of whatever was going to be the end that this person that they took this journey with was going to bring forward.
Yeah.
That's how strongly they felt about it before potentially even knowing what the hell it was going to be.
Yeah, and thankfully, Disney righted that wrong and brought him back so we could actually get Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Because otherwise, who knows what would have happened. I'm sure the characters would have came back and they would have done something with them, but not having it directed by James Gunn is gonna be weird. Which, honestly, is gonna feel weird to me because the tag teases another Star-Lord appearance or movie.
Yeah,
which is already going to be weird if James Gunn's not involved with that. But
he's appeared in the Russo brothers movies, so I mean, he was in Endgame, he was in Infinity War.
True, yeah, but so, I guess I trusted the Russos just based on what they've done for Marvel. I don't know. really, you know, if Star-Lord continues and they keep the tag of legendary Star-Lord for a movie or appearance or whatever, I guess from here I'd like to see who next they would put in charge of that character and let them play with it. Like, is it going to make sense, or is it going to be like, I don't know about that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and
Yeah.
see.
But either way, back to
who knows what their future is.
Back to, you know, James Gunn's final movie for at least what we think for the MCU, at least for Guardians. Josh, what do you think of James Gunn's Volume 3, his direction and everything?
I mean, it's no surprise, I think, you know, he knocked it out of the park. Like, there's something about his films prior to Marvel showed his capabilities as a filmmaker. The things that he directed, and most of them, I think he wrote and directed Super. You know, we've talked about this in the past. He wrote the Scooby-Doo live action movies. He wrote Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake. He wrote the Belko Experiment, right? But the things that he also then directed, that he created, like Slither, showed his capabilities, and like, oh, this guy knows the mechanics of how to make a movie. He knows how to put people in a space, make a frame, create a scene, get actors to do what he wants, find marks, do frame. Like, he knows how to do it. Guardians hits, and you're like, holy shit, this guy is creative and has vision. Like, you don't move that many pieces around that fast and create the sequences that he did without being really good at your job. Yeah. And this just, the one thing I will say, this raised the bar from the other two in terms of bringing all of his strengths together and elevating them. Finding new, interesting ways to create action sequences, ways to weave your emotional points into the rest of the suspense elements of, you know, the drama you're creating, while also still, you know, I know they kind of existed with Tony Stark and what Jon Favreau did with Iron Man and all that. I really do credit, like, coming out of think of phase 2 of the MCU. Guardians was the last movie that was phase 2. I mean, count Ant-Man, I guess. But phase 2 ended with that, and then you get Ultron. I think Guardians, easily the first one, you could credit with putting the type of humor and the version of humor you get in the MCU. That's its origins. Its origin point. The way that it can be funny, the types of way, like, you don't get Ragnarok without the first Guardians doing well in the way that it did for what was created. So he found all of those ways to, like I said, just like weave the symphony together and spit this movie out. Like I said, it took me on journeys I didn't expect. I wouldn't even call it the Rocket subplot. I mean, Rocket is the story, and all of the background of him, it pulls your heart the entire time, while still finding those, like, open the fucking door moments to make you laugh in the middle of genuine tension and feelings of, you know, they feel very rushed. They feel very, like, on the clock. We have to get these, you know, get the solution as fast as possible. All that's happening, and he still finds ways to get everything you could possibly feel, you know, the spectrum of feelings in that 2.5 hours.
It's like, yeah, I definitely call this Rocket's movie, and that's funny because he's on his deathbed for 2/3 of the movie.
Right.
Like, he really doesn't get up and moving until the last third. So they weave in enough flashbacks to really give you what you need to really focus on Rocket, that's all the stuff that I loved. I think that stuff is the stuff that sticks with me out of the movie. And that's the stuff that I kind of said sprinkles the emotional punches through it, because it's not just, like, almost every single flashback hits you in a different way with Rocket. And then you finally get the emotional buildup at the end too, and that hits you even harder. But There's numerous times throughout the movie that I think they hit you pretty good with the emotion, and it all centers, I think, really around Rocket's story and the flashbacks.
Yeah, and that leads into kind of what I had said before. At least currently, I don't personally do well with seeing animals in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Last 2 years we lost 2 pets, and I had to see that for 2 things that I loved. And seeing that in this movie for 2/3 of it made it really tough to get through. I think on subsequent watchings, it will be better because, we know how the ending is, and that kind of makes it simpler to be like, okay, but I know they actually save Rocket and everything will be somewhat
Still get a little bit of that
okay.
happy ending at the end, so it's a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, we still have to deal with him losing his friends.
Yeah. Well, plus you didn't know you were walking into that.
No.
With this at all.
I had no idea. I had actually, this was one of the first Marvel movies I had managed to stay away from previews 100% on.
Yay.
And yeah, exactly.
One
like,
of us.
Man,
One of us.
Like, honestly, it's just because I'm not going to as many movies. I wasn't like with, I told you guys, like with Amy back in school, it's just, she's wanting the weekend to just, she has to just keep doing schoolwork.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
off now for a long time, so it'll be fine. But while she's in school, it's like we go together, and
Now,
that
along
cuts
these
into it.
lines,
But
real quick, Brian, you had watched the first trailer, yes?
Yes.
How much of any of this would you say that it alluded to?
You definitely get some visuals of like young Rocket, so you can tell he's going to be a focus of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like the moment that I remember from the trailer, like when Rocket's on his deathbed and Peter's like screaming at the table, thinking he's dead.
Oh, that's in
that
the trailer?
shot of just his close up of him screaming is in the trailer. So the way the trailer focuses on Rocket, and then you get that shot, you can sort of extrapolate that something's going to happen to Rocket.
Okay.
You don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, if he's going to make it out in the end. But
why? When?
The trailer, I
Blah,
think,
yeah.
the first trailer, I think, leans heavily into that. So, and I remember, like, when the trailer was out, like, that was the buzz around Twitter, was like, what's going to happen to Rocket? Oh my God, if they kill him, I'm going to lose it. Like, James Gunn, you bastard. Like, it's a lot of that was happening. And I didn't watch any trailers after that, so I don't know how much further they leaned into that. But you could definitely, knowing how the movie is now, you could definitely piece those together if you really wanted to dig into it. But again, I usually just give myself that first trailer, kind of let it just wash over me, and then I just try to stay away after that. So, but even just watching that, there's certain things that will kind of stick with you and you just remember.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that insight. Mike, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Say.
Yeah, I mean that was, what I had referred to about it being tough for me, and the movie made up for it in that final third. I agree with a lot of what Brian said about Adam Warlock. He was a plot device in this movie, and that pissed me off.
But only like hardly even that though.
But no, he literally existed to start the movie and to save them when they needed saved. Like, I honestly thought they were going to have him kill the High Evolutionary after everything, just because the High Evolutionary was so powerful, and so was Adam Warlock, and it was, like, to me, it was just leading to this, like, oh, he just MacGuffins the day, or whatever you want to call it, or Ex Machina, basically, just shows up and I win because I'm more powerful. I thought they were going to go that route, and I was pissed, and I'm glad they didn't, because I would have hated it.
At least for the movie, too. I feel like they made him dumber than I'm expecting Adam Warlock.
Way fucking... Here's the thing. I have not read a lot of... Adam Warlock doesn't exactly have his own line of comics very often. I'm sure he's had a few runs here and there. But he shows up in major events. And usually he's on the back end of the... Like, he's not on the front lines. He's not a frontline fighter. He's at the back of things. Like, specifically, like, I think Infinity Gauntlet. He's sitting there discussing strategy with Doctor Strange. Like, he's not... And, like, he's keeping up mentally with Doctor Strange. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a
I was gonna say,
dumbass,
just
overpowered thing.
like, correct me if I'm wrong too. Doesn't Adam Warlock has one of the Infinity Stones in his head, right? In the comics.
At times,
Okay.
I think, but not during Infinity Gauntlet because Thanos has them all.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that
But-
was part of his character, was he was so closely tied to the Infinity Stones, and they sort of gave that to
Yes.
Vision in the MCU,
Well-
where they put the stone on his head.
Yes, they did that, and like Adam Warlock, if I remember correctly, has a very different origin in the comic books, where he was kind of a creation of the stones.
Right. Okay.
Which is why, like, anytime there's an Infinity storyline, he's involved, whether that be Thanos involved or not.
Yeah.
Adam Warlock's there.
Well, if I might, there's it's like in the middle of the movie, basically, or even as you're like bordering into Act 3, that at some point I forgot he was in the movie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So after like High Evolutionaries blowing up the planet, Aisha, his mom, if you want to call her that, gets toasted. I don't know what, like, was that a bow that we thought we needed tied off, like with the Sovereign and them?
I guess, because I guess they leave him
she-
hanging at the last of the movie, so you might as well.
She gets blown up. They don't show how he gets don't show how he gets back from there to land back on the Bowie, but Gamora sees him back on the Bowie again after that, even though he just left there to go try to save his mom. He passes out. Later you find him tied up in like the med bay on the Bowie. They show him in the process of breaking his bonds, only to bust through Peter and Gamora's ship as they're trying to start their attack, for them to then immediately crash the ship and blow it up with him in it. So the whole thing of him breaking out of the med bay and smashing into their ship, I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know why he hates them. I don't know what he's trying to achieve. Then he gets blown up. Then I'm like, okay, is that the end? Because we don't need him. And then he shows up in a doorway, all singed, just to yell, and then pass out again for no consequence. To then just get woken up again to do something later. Like, the usage of him was so weird. I've never found things to really be easily critical about these Guardians movies, but this is a big one. It's so weird.
Yeah. And for me, like, Will Poulter plays a dumbass really good. He's
Yep.
so good at playing that role. He's funny. It's great. It's kind of what he's known for at this point, which is, hey, if that's your niche and you fit it, cool. But I did not like the use of the character, and most of all, I guess you could call it, final use of the character pissed me off more than any. And it's the one thing in this movie that I said, why did they not do this? This could have tied off the series so damn well. And just brought it all together. Star-Lord is floating into space, freezing to death. In the exact same way that he went out and saved Gamora, she could have gone and saved him.
Yes.
Tied the whole damn thing up in a neat little bow and been
Yep.
like, damn, that was a great callback and a way to finish off this whole series. That's fucking awesome. And then it's this douchebag.
Yeah. And it could have showed it
was-
didn't even have to be like, oh, because now look, I am the Gamora, not the Gamora, but I have feelings for you, and that's why I want to save you.
I developed
didn't
them
have to go that
throughout
way.
the course that we've seen here.
But
and
it
now
didn't
I'm
even-
going to save you, and it's going to be significant. And she could have kneed him in the balls again after it, just
Yeah,
to be
ju-
pissed off about
something
it. You know?
just to show the appreciation that of the journey we've gone on these last couple of days. I get it, and I'm almost
was there.
I'm returning a favor that I didn't even experience
Receive.
myself, because that wasn't the
Yeah.
version of her. I agree, that was like Taylor fucking made for it, and I don't.
Exactly.
I guess they were trying to give it Adam, like they were trying to give him something, and to show like, okay, after all of like, oh, I didn't have to explain
He
it.
didn't.
I
need that.
know
They
why
could have given him something else.
they could have. I know why they chose him to do that. Why James wrote that. I understand it, but I wish it would have happened differently.
Yeah, he's here. I mean, he's in there for two reasons. He's in there because they teased him at the end of 2, so they have to put him in 3. And then, Josh, to your point, they didn't have anything for him to do, so they gave him that moment to have something to do. That's the only explanation I can come up with.
Yeah.
If you want my guess on it, given the way that they presented him here, we're never going to get a Marvel, like, MCU version of Sentry, which also means we're not going to get the MCU's version of Void. I don't know how much you guys know about those two characters.
Assume nothing.
Sentry's basically God. Like if Superman times 100, let's go that route. Void is the evil version of Sentry. Sentry becomes corrupted and turns evil. And I could see them trying to take this version of Warlock, who is much more, let's say, physically powerful than he is in comics, and turning him into a Void-like character. Where it's almost like multiple personality disorder for Void and Sentry, where like one issue he may be one, and the next issue he might turn and lose his shit and start killing people.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting take for them, because Sentry is I feel like they wouldn't want to introduce the character because it's just an answer to any problem, which is why they created the Void personality form in the comics, because it was like, well, why doesn't Sentry just handle everything? So they created, a reason that Sentry doesn't just handle everything.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. For the Adam Warlock stuff, since we all kind of feel disappointed with that character, and the only other time I can think of where that kind of hit more or less sort of resoundingly was Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin. You think that compares to this one, where it's just disappointment in sort of what they did, or kind of, do you like one over the other?
I mean, we did get a correction
eventually,
on
but
the Mandarin.
At the time we got Iron Man 3, that was the Mandarin that we were dealt, and it was an actor who was not the Mandarin.
I will take the silly take on the Mandarin over the silly take on Warlock, because it was Ben Kingsley, and Trevor Slattery is a fucking king. I will just stand by that.
I think I agree, but for different reasons. It was the Trevor Slattery explanation still fit the rest of the fabric of the story and your overall villain. Just one, just to sum it up, like the whole Warlock thing, the whole Sovereign thing just felt completely out of place.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you said, I think the Trevor Slattery thing fits the story. It's a left field swing, and it was unexpected, and I, at the time, not sure I cared for it, but it worked out in what they did. But yeah, to your point, Josh, I think it did fit. This one just feels like they took a good character and someone I expected to be really cool and just made him dumber and felt worthless in the movie, which that's where I'm a little bit just disappointed there.
They dropped an Acme anvil on his head and were like, just let it happen.
I mean, for me, I say this all the time. I don't have any preconception of these characters, so I'm not going into it necessarily with this, like, well, this isn't how he's written, this is not how he's been portrayed, etc. This is not his background, his power set, blah blah blah. Even if they hadn't teased it at the end of the second one, like whatever it is, just its place in the rest of the story, just it didn't belong. It just really stuck out and did not belong.
This is a slight sidebar, but Mike, did you ever play that Guardians of the Galaxy game from Square Enix?
The new one?
Yeah. The one from a couple years ago.
No, that's like right at the front of my back catalog right now. Like, I'm actually kind of planning on playing it after I finish Jedi Survivor.
Okay. I did play that, finally played through that game, I think, last year, and it is excellent. It is superbly written. The story in that is fantastic. Biggest hurdle for me was just trying to get over some of the voice actors, because I'm so married to the MCU versions of these characters that it's just a little bit
Super
to break.
Mario being your Star-Lord.
Yeah.
I get it.
But it was still really, really fucking good. And some of the characters, I think, in this movie are in that game, and I think the game treats them better. I mean, without getting, spoilery for the game.
That's fair.
For anyone that's interested in Guardians and you like that stuff, and you're a gamer, you have, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, for stuff, definitely check out Guardians of the Galaxy from Square Enix from a couple years ago. I don't remember what year that released,
It's not long.
2022.
Yeah, it's 2020, 2021, 22.
Somewhere in there.
Like
Yeah, it's really good. I think it was at one point it was on Game Pass. I don't know if it's on like PS Plus or anything like that, but highly recommended if you like Guardians, give it a shot. The story alone I think is worth playing through, so definitely check that out.
If my research was correct, it's not terribly long either. So it's not something where you're going to sit down and be stuck with it for a while. Like when I looked at it, it said it was like 8 to 10 hours.
It might be. Like, I mean, I think it took me longer, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just take my time. I'm a slow
you're
player.
Also a side quest and collectible.
Yeah, I do
player.
like checking every corner for collectible things. So yeah, that's where I get distracted. High Evolutionary in this movie. What do you guys think of the villain? Talked a little bit about him in the general stuff, but spoilery. What do we want to get into for him?
Man, I thought real quick. I thought
let Josh go.
The acting, while at times it would appear to be over the top, I feel like this actor, who I don't necessarily know that I recognize him immediately from other things off the top of my head.
He was in Peacemaker. If you watch Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn, he was. Okay.
That's all I recognize him from.
Okay, fair enough. There was never a point in which I thought he was overacting. He through those 2.5 hours crafted at times this maniacal, manic thing enough that it all fit. I kind of dug him.
Yeah.
I hate everything he did, but the actor I loved.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. He fits with Guardians and how James Gunn's handled everything. He fits what they're trying to do. The High Evolutionary as a villain in comic books was very powerful, but sucked. Like, didn't make for entertaining comics. You're scraping around trying to find a villain that works. But in the world that they have presented for the Guardians and how they are presented, this character works. For whatever weird reason, it fits the movie and the style of this trilogy. It works for them, where I feel like, because again, the High Evolutionary could turn up as a villain for many different Marvel characters if they had wanted to. And had they chose any other one, it would not have worked in the way that the movies are presented. So it was a perfect choice for this. And it doesn't, the way everything was handled and wrapped up, it doesn't present a potential threat in the universe that's still out there kind of situation that the High Evolutionary could have presented in a lot of other situations that I'm sure they did not want. So that all works. I agree with Josh. The acting was over the top, but it was meant to be. It was on purpose, and it worked for the character.
Especially you get to Act 3, and when he's just losing it on his own staff in the control room before he obliterates them. Leading up to that, those couple of minutes, man, I like that. I don't want to say that solidified it for me, but his breakdown of just his obsession and commitment to things and just screaming at everybody, and he was. I think
the maniacal description was a good way to put it. Maniacal is a good word.
Yeah, it was really well done. However, the writing for the characters' motivations, I still don't understand. I understand what he's doing. I understand that he's nuts. I understand that he's, again, the acting is so well portrayed, somebody that clearly has way too much power in mental instability. But what were the original motivations? You know what I mean? What was the actual motivation to end up trying to do what he's trying to do? I didn't grasp that.
What were the first couple of steps along the path that prompted him to eventually follow however long he's been doing this?
Yeah, it seems like a really long time.
Yeah, because he mentions hundreds of years. And not to put everybody through a Thanos lens, but at least they did a good job with Thanos, especially in Infinity War, of showing he's coming from a world that is going to, quote, collapse on itself because of its management or lack thereof of resources in a way. So therefore, he looks for alternatives as solutions in a way. He's trying to problem solve.
Thanos was looking for a benevolent solution to
Right. So what?
a horrible situation.
Yeah. So but initially it's kind of through that lens. What you're right. What was the evolutionary's catalyst? What was it that he observed? What was it that he couldn't answer? What was it that he couldn't escape that kept him up at night that led him down whatever path however long ago?
Right. Yeah, just some answer to that would have been cool to have. I'm not saying it's a major fault in the story. I'm just saying, like, it would have been nice to have that because I feel like it would be interesting.
Yeah. I think I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think the character was really cool. I think like you said, the acting was awesome. I was surprised they went as far as showing his messed up face. I wasn't sure if they'd go that far.
Again,
for
James Gunn
considering
trauma, he was putting it in there.
But considering, like, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, like, Marvel movies are PG-13. Kids are going to see this. That scene is going to freak the fuck out of the children in the theater seeing this movie.
Yeah.
So I actually saw an article about that saying where the article that they wrote itself, and I want to say it was Variety UK wrote this article, where they complained that the gore and some of the things that you see in the movie might not be appropriate for children under 13.
That's why you rated PG-13.
It's rated PG-13, you dimwits. So it's not meant to be appropriate for children under 13 unless their parents are okay with that. So you just need to kind of expect that.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying, for that type of movie, the parents are going to take their kids not expecting something like that, and then they're going to get it, and then it's going to be, we'll see what happens. But I'm just curious how many kids ended up coming out of this movie with nightmares after the fact.
I was just meaning that, like, a lot of the MCU has been rated PG-13, and they've been very, very soft PG-13 movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's been, it's been PG-13, but as far as pushing the limits of that rating, they haven't.
Yeah, between that, and just the makeup and that scratched up face alone and the one F-bomb, like, that's it. You're at the max for PG-13, I think.
Yeah. And don't even try to show a nipple. That would trump out everything else, and you're immediately rated R.
Show the asses all you want, but you can't give us no nipples.
Yeah. Well, men, you can show men's nipples.
That's true, yeah. Man nipples are okay.
Gotta love the rating situation.
Oh, yeah. All the violence you want, but as soon as you show some titties, fucking goddamn it, give us all the titties.
America.
Yeah. What do I...
I was going to do a segue for you right into... I feel like previously we had mentioned Chris Pine a while back in this show, and I feel like we had a previous best use of the Beastie Boys in a movie ever because of Chris Pine in the third Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
We now have a better use of Beastie Boys in a movie because of their use in this movie. Go ahead, Brian. I just wanted to
set that. The soundtrack,
tee it up for you.
Soundtrack is good in this one too. Trying to remember some of the songs that stood out to me, and I, for right now, can't for the life of me think of like good sequences where they use the music. The only one I can think of is the Space Hog song that was in the trailers everywhere, like when they're bouncing around the organic place that they went to visit.
I was trying to segue for you from No Sleep Till Brooklyn into the hallway fight.
Oh yeah. Is that when that comes out?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't remember
No
if it
Sleep
was
Till
like that or
Brooklyn
not.
goes
Okay.
on, and yeah, the song plays through the whole fight, and that's why it's now the best use.
Yeah, the hallway sequence is by far my favorite sequence in the movie, hands down.
That was amazing.
Directed so well, the way that camera moves through that fight scene. I was really trying to watch like where the cuts were because they are definitely hidden in there. But I'm gonna have to watch it so many more times to figure out where they actually cut it together. But yeah, that sequence alone was fucking cool.
Yeah, I honestly did not know whether we'd ever get anything like that with CGI involved, because like when you have people doing it, you can just kind of keep filming and go with it. When something doesn't go perfect, it wouldn't necessarily go perfect in a real fight, so it looks natural. When you're having to CGI stuff in and you're having these people do one take through stuff without anything there, and you're having all this stuff, that was so awesome to watch how they handled that.
He's infamous for storyboarding the shit out of his movies. That alone had to have been so planned, and to you don't go into something like that thinking, as we're filming it, we'll figure it out of how to, like, you have to know before you even put one actor on a green screen or anything or in makeup exactly how it's going to flow. You have to see the whole thing in your head and execute it step by step to put that together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Music for you guys. Any standouts for anything?
He's always so good with his soundtrack. I mean, the three, I guess, volumes, if you will, of soundtracks for these movies have been so good. There was one, and I'm gonna look it up. Josh, you go ahead. It was a one-hit wonder type of song that he pulled from the '90s that was just so. I was like, yes, I can't believe he grabbed that one.
Was it?
And I'm struggling with it.
It wasn't Space Hog, was it? Because they kind of were a one-hit wonder. You're looking
I
at
don't recognize.
In the meantime is the name of the song.
when they're floating in space in their colored space.
That was the one I was describing. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be it.
That one.
That was the one that was, Josh, like you said, you probably didn't see the trailers, but that was the one they were playing all through the trailers. So that was the first trailer ended with that music cue, and that from the trailer it hit pretty hard. I was like, oh yeah, this fucking song. So they put it in the movie, pretty cool too.
Where the needle drops happen for that song and for No Sleep Till Brooklyn were really well done. I think the most successful organic weaving of the music into everything else, I still think Volume 2 succeeds the best at that. I think the use of it and the funness of it all in this one is about equivalent to Volume 1. I definitely still like it. I'm gonna buy it, but there wasn't like a standout necessarily for me. There wasn't like a big moment other than Beastie Boys being used throughout that entire sequence. I will say this: it seemed like in this one, it didn't seem like he was taking like a minute of a song and using it as a scene transition here or there as much as he did the other films. There's like 3 or 4 songs in this movie, like the entire song plays. Like that opening number of the acoustic version of Creep.
Yeah.
It's the entire song.
That was awesome.
It takes that entire like 4 minutes going through that. Same thing with, like, as we just keep saying, Space Hog and Beastie Boys, you pretty much get nearly the entire song.
Yeah.
Out of it. So again, nothing really stood out to me as much as Volume 2 per se did, but still really enjoyed it.
Looking back at it to make sure, that was the Space Hog song was the one I was thinking of. I guess I didn't see it in the trailer, so I was kind of confused, but I also didn't recognize the name Space Hog because one hit wonder. I recognized the song. I was like, oh yeah, but I mean, the name. But I'd also like to throw out my personal favorite girl band song ever is in this movie, and that's Crazy on You by Heart.
Sarah lost her shit next to me when that started.
that is, my opinion, the best song by a girl band ever, and one of just the best rock songs from that age. And usually James Gunn is better at picking out songs that I'm not as familiar with. Things that were, it's like, oh, I have heard this, but I'm not like up on it, like he did in Volume 2 with what I wanted to point out, that maybe definitely the best song moment scene thing he's put together is with Come a Little Bit Closer.
Yep.
That whole Yondu killing the filming of it, the way that it's dark and the red trace through everything, the song playing, it just was so great. And I feel like they got there again with this No Sleep Till Brooklyn moment. And on a lower tone, I feel like Creep played so well. And for what they were going for. It's not as like, oh, I'm hyped to hear them play Creep again in the song. You're never hyped to hear Creep. It's a good song, but you're never like, I can't wait to jam out to that. But it was really cool to see. It was also cool to hear Earth, Wind, and Fire in there too. That was kind of, again, he pulls out stuff like, to me, the two that stick out are Come a Little Bit Closer and Lakeshore Drive, that he pulled out of nowhere, that I had heard those songs before but never really paid much attention to them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wow, he pulled those out. And they just work so well, and it made me love the songs again out of nowhere. So,
How about you, Brian?
I mean, song-wise, the two that we mentioned, the Space Hog one was the one that really stuck out to me. Again, from hearing it in the trailers, I was like, I didn't know if they were using it for the trailer, or if they'd used it in the movie. They used it in the movie. I was happy about that. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Everybody loves the Beastie Boys. I mean, come on. And part of my favorite sequence, which I couldn't, of course, remember the song they used in the favorite sequence, but that works to put it all together. So yes, those two for me are the standouts. I don't remember a lot of the other ones that hit that I can remember. I'd probably have to go back and like listen to the soundtrack and then try to figure out where they, try to remember where they were used in the movie, or go see the movie again to try to pick out some more. But
I'll admit I didn't really other than those and Heart, I didn't really recognize the other ones. Like I don't know Rainbow, and I'm not like my knowledge of Alice Cooper is not that extensive.
To be fair, it wasn't long ago. Like I just want to point this out. No offense to Josh. Josh, you were really into music, and you know more about music than me by a long shot. But after we talked about Love and Thunder, and you had said you had never heard Rainbow in the Dark before, I was just like, what the fuck?
Fair. Very fair.
It's surprising. Everybody has holes like that, and James Gunn is good at finding those holes of these awesome songs that you're not as familiar with.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. And I love the callback to Redbone.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
at the end, that was great. That was well timed and deserved.
So going with the end of the movie, do you guys think any of the Guardians were going to bite it? Did you actually think they'd kill any of these characters off?
They teased it so many
Yes.
times. How many times did they have somebody on the brink of death and they were like, but they're okay now?
So who did you think was going to go? I would have put my money on
Drax.
Drax. I thought Drax was going to go.
When he got shot in the chest, I thought that was like, oh,
I thought that was
shit.
it. Yep.
Like, I thought he was going right then and there, and they were just, because it seemed like he was gone.
I was kind of wondering if the sort of like Coulson, if the Act 3 motivation for the rest of the team was going to be Rocket dying.
Okay. Yeah.
And that moment, Brian, you're talking about it was included in the trailer. I think I said to you after we saw it together was there's two specific moments of performance that need to, I think, get credit, and it is both in similar instances. When Chris Pratt thinks Rocket is dead on that operating table, that
was real.
Yes. Like that, man, you freaking felt that. And then similarly in the flashback, when the evolutionary first kills Lila, and Rocket is just sobbing, screaming, just losing his mind over her before he then attacks him, and then unfortunately the others get killed and blah blah. Like that voice performance from Bradley Cooper, personal opinion, if I think Bradley Cooper also did the voice for that period, but whoever it was, like that was well done to me. Like there's a selling of genuine horror and grief, like of just like your brain breaks in those moments if you're experiencing them. And that is what you do when something like that you lose. Everything else just goes out the window, and that is how your body and your mind and your voice and everything reacts. And those two moments really sold it. So I personally thought first Rocket was going to go. I did worry, same thing, that Drax gets shot both in the chest and then in the back.
Yeah.
I was worried there. I thought for a slight moment when Rocket and Nebula get up to the destroyed control panel, and Nebula's like, I can hook myself in and control from here. Blah, blah. I thought that might be a setup for like somebody has to stay behind and make sure the ship stays locked in so everyone else can get away. She's so much of a
machine. I wasn't like, that one didn't get me as much. Like I thought the same thing, but I was like, but it's Nebula. She'll just
I mean,
You know.
you can only destroy her to a certain extent
Android
before she
her
can put
way out
herself
of it.
back. But I did when Peter gets, not just when he gets hit with a thing and starts floating backward, when he starts inflating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that
he
kind
turned
of
he turned to
had that
Ice
thought, too.
Peter and started getting bloated. Like, I'm like, holy shit, they're gonna kill Quill.
I thought his head might explode. Like I thought that's where they
Yeah.
were going with it.
Yeah, like I legitimately thought like they're killing Star-Lord. No joke, I thought that was happening.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the thing with going in knowing this is the last one they're
Right.
going to make.
Right.
Yes, like
You know, so it's
nobody's
like it's
safe. you think.
possible. Yeah, it's possible they kill the main character because, you know.
Well, I guess to that point, do you think this team will ever get back together, or is this definitively this is it?
I think
I'd say that depends on James Gunn.
Okay.
I think for what they're
I-
gonna do, I think this is it.
I agree. I'd like. I feel like if things go south with Warner Brothers quickly for James Gunn, you may have a chance at it. If he even comes close to the full 10 years, no.
Do you think we'd get another Guardians, not directed by James Gunn, but with a different cast? Like the cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy that are at the end of the movie. Rocket, Warlock, Groot, Kraglin. Who else is there?
Adam,
I'd say we're gonna see them again.
Just like one-off characters, or as a group, or what? What do you think we'll get?
Maybe as a group in some of the bigger things that are coming down the Marvel pipeline.
Okay.
Because at the very end there, in that scene, they take the moment to introduce King Groot, or the beginnings of King Groot. I don't know. Are you guys familiar with that version of
I know
Groot?
of Groot.
They are showing a transformation into a version of Groot that is King Groot, and much more powerful than even what we've seen from Groot.
Mm.
And showing him the way they did in that last bit, being gigantic on base, as opposed to like the whole kaiju thing that he had him do at
that
one
was
point
hilarious.
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
had me dying. But showing him in that state more naturally leads me to believe they have something planned. Like, why change the look of the character at that point if that's a one-off?
Yeah.
So I would say we're going to see them, but I don't know in what context.
I fall in the same.
Yeah, I don't think the Guardians are done. I think they'll come back at some capacity, whether or not it's this team or another cast of characters. I mean, I'd be fine if they ended it there and they just give, okay, like Rocket's in charge of the team and this is the team now and they're doing Guardian stuff. Cool. And maybe we get Star-Lord somewhere in a movie by himself or some other crossover tie-in, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'd still on the flip side still like to see where this group, this cast of characters for the new Guardians goes and see how they run under Rocket after he goes through this whole emotional journey and see if he's less of a curmudgeon and turns out to be a pretty cool captain. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say on Star-Lord's future, at the end there, when we see him with his grandfather,
Yeah.
something of note there is that they name his grandfather Jason, which opens up the possibility that his grandfather is actually Jason of Spartax. And
Corsair.
Yes. And instead,
Corsair was.
Corsair was Cyclops.
That's right.
Dad.
That's right.
Yeah, no, Jason of Spartax was Jason of Spartax. Like, that was just who he was. And he was like an alien demigod, basically. And I feel like that would be an interesting opening for whatever context we see him in next. To be like, Peter, I had a thing with aliens too, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because they gave him that name and they had originally changed his lineage to have Ego be his dad in the second movie. Introducing him as Jason was a very cool, even if it's just a nod
Yeah.
to what that was. It's very cool, but it could potentially lead to more.
Anything? I know we're gonna try to wrap it up. So any last thoughts for Guardians, or we'll get to the rating and then close it down.
I do.
I'm
going to say that I
have as well.
I don't necessarily. I'm not going to say this because I wish it would have been better. I think it would have been better. It's what they should have done. I just, especially after seeing the second viewing, I think had they gone the path I'm going to describe, that it would have been an interesting way to go, and also could have actually made sense to tie off some of the themes that they presented up to that point. I don't necessarily know why you present the moment where they're trying to break into the records place of that like awkward romantic tension between Peter and Nebula with no payoff. So
Yet.
okay, but hear me out. If you rewatch, if you see the movie again and you watch we'll call it the hallway fight. There's a moment where Peter and Nebula sort of end up doing, I think they end up doing one of those like face to face. She's shooting over his shoulders, he's shooting under her or to the side things. Given this whole movie's theme of the constant repeatedness of Peter having to accept that Gamora is not literally the person that he had, that person died, that person is gone. And then it's before that moment that you have the awkwardness in the records room that he then makes the comment about, like, never noticed how black your eyes are. It was sweet. It was cute. Instead of the ending being, I'm going away and you're staying here to try to rebuild the city, whatever she says she's going to do and whatnot. They still could have done something like that, but again, not saying it would have been better. It's not what they should have done, but I think this would have made sense. In that moment where they choreographed in that hallway fight, the two of them are in that position. One of them just grabs the other and kisses them. For one moment. Doesn't last. It doesn't break the scene. It doesn't stop the action. It's sort of like the Pirates of the Caribbean 3, like, I don't think that was the right time kind of moment when Will and Elizabeth do it during the last, like, big fight. It happens as a culmination of everything else that's been discussed thematically through the movie to that point. They move on. They have the rest of the fight. They survive. They do the thing. And then just maybe their story ends a little bit differently. Like, you give the closure to Quill there about Gamora. She can leave and move on. And the two of them, like, yeah, he might still decide, maybe I didn't, you know, one of the things they say in Volume 2 so much about Gamora and Nebula together is that they literally say, you know, he says at Yondu's funeral, sometimes the thing you want your whole life is in front of you the whole time. So him and Nebula have spent a lot of time together for a while now. And it just maybe recognizing that did become something that he actually wants or could enjoy, you know, whatever, they could be compatible. Maybe they
for a little
still
bit I did think they were gonna do that, like the way that she sort of cares for him in the like beginning half of the movie.
Yes.
And like, you see her taking care of him. I thought that was leading there, that she has developed feelings for him. She is definitely a much softer character in this movie than she has been in past movies.
Yeah.
And I thought to your point, I thought it was going to be that kind of thing too, where Gamora is different. Peter has to realize this isn't going to work for them, and then he has to wake up and realize, no, wait, Nebula's actually right there, and that kind of, you know, he finds out or realizes maybe that he's into her, and that kind of, but she's known for a while, and it's just the point of him trying to realize. And like, I thought they might go that way, and for the first half of the movie, I thought that's what they were leading to. Mm-hmm. By the back half, you started seeing that, no, I don't think they're going to do that. But yeah, the breadcrumbs are there for that type of storyline.
See, I present the same scenario you put forward, Josh, but instead when he goes to try and kiss her, Nebula headbutts him and is like, gross, and then just lets it go. Like,
perfect. But it's at least the acknowledgement to the two of them of that moment. And maybe it doesn't change anything. Maybe they don't, you know, maybe after the war is won, they don't have a moment where they acknowledge something between them. Maybe they do. You could still have their paths diverge at the end and realize they both have different things they need to do right now.
Yeah.
But I think it's another thing that maybe like stuck out like a sore thumb a little bit, because like, okay, Brian, so you just said like, it wasn't just me that picked up on these things. So like, why have it there if there's not a payoff for it, if there's not a conclusion to it?
I personally, I think the point of its presence is that he looks at other options and he still wants Gamora. He sees that there is other things there, but he still sees the person he loves and realizes that, no, that's who I actually love. Shit.
Maybe.
It's him opening his mind to other options for a moment and realizing that's not what's for him.
Well, it probably depends how you want to spin it too. It's like at that point, like the Guardians are pretty much family. So it's like, do you want to date your sister, or
But they
is it
already
just
were.
gonna be weird?
Like him and Gamora were though.
Fair, but
But
and
they
then
he
on the
wanted
flip
to
side
date her
too,
when he first saw her and met her.
is it
They
gonna be
became family-ish.
like would it be weird too if he went for Gamora and it didn't work, so then he just goes for Gamora's sister? Like,
Yeah.
there's stuff there that
would
it's like,
be-
would
I
that
get
make
that.
Peter look like an idiot? Or more of an idiot? I don't know, but yeah,
It's
and
called
then
second chance at the friend zone, man.
well,
Like I
there's
said,
always
then-
the part of it like you can be close with someone and not have to be romantically involved, right?
True.
That's could be part
And
of it too.
that's exactly that's basically the Drax Mantis relationship.
Yeah.
It really is. And so maybe, okay, so given what you're saying, not to harp on this really any longer, but given what you're saying, maybe then in that moment, it's Nebula then taking the step. That in the middle of the fight, she's the one that, grabs his shirt for 2 seconds, pulls him in for a kiss, pulls him back. They have to keep fighting. Whatever happens, it felt natural and it felt organic. It felt like it would work given all the other themes that they've established by that point. But more to the point that because there seemed to be a lot of that up front, and it didn't seem to have a reason to be there because it didn't do anything. It didn't have a point. It didn't have any point to me later. But that's all. That's my piece.
So the last thing I had is I wanted to have some fun. Have you guys looked up all the cameos that were in the movie?
Not
You guys
all.
actually
No.
looked at
I
it?
feel like I've heard most of them.
Okay, so obviously Lloyd Kaufman was there again in he wasn't really in costume. He was the same character that he was in the first movie. Whatever, the Griddle Mop or whatever it was, the guy that was in the prison playing at the card game with Howard the Duck and Kraglin and Cosmo. Which Cosmo, by the way, we didn't mention. Fucking Cosmo was amazing in this movie.
Oh yeah.
The whole like tell me I'm a good dog thing, that was I love that. That was so great.
We'll give credit to Maria Bakalova voicing the chick who got some notoriety for the Borat sequel, mostly.
Yeah.
I think is what she's known for.
But the other cameos, I'll see like and I'll get the last one I'll do is kind of tough, but Linda Cardellini was
Lily,
yes.
Lila.
Okay.
Lila, yeah.
Lila. Yeah. Sorry. Nathan Fillion showing up, that was just amazing and so
did
much
so good.
fun. And they put him in like a baby testicle suit or whatever the hell you want to call that thing that those guys were wearing. It was hilarious.
So I saw him Instagram post or tweet out or something, like a picture of him in the costume, and he had the helmet like under his shoulder, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna be like one of the guys that with the helmet on. You're just not gonna know he's gonna be there. I did not expect to see him flat out with his helmet off, actually having lines of dialogue. Like I loved all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the dialogue he had. With like, oh yeah, I have one of those guys too. That was great. Pete Davidson.
I
I
could
saw
not,
a picture of that.
even in the second viewing, I don't know who his character is. Like I saw the character name, but I don't know who it is.
This one is the most fun and the hardest one to get. Pete Davidson, when they are evacuating the ships, and there is the poor little blob that is in the one cell that like it's a bunch of children that they're letting out. And then the one thing is just a weird thing. It's like it's just basically screing and in pain.
Yeah, is that him?
That's Pete Davidson. That is Pete Davidson.
Got it.
I saw Pete Davidson was in it. I'm like, oh God, what was he? And I looked it up, and I had the same moment. I had to actually dig kind of deep to figure out who the hell it was, because it says like, I think it's like Amorphous Blob or something like that is what the character's
I
titled.
don't
Like
think
it's
that's
something
Pete,
just
though, because I see James Gunn posting pictures of Pete Davidson in a like he plays a humanoid character that like has a.
He may have been in a costume, but he voiced that.
Okay, then maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
He may have been in a different costume somewhere
costume
else
for something.
but he voiced the weird blob thing in
Okay,
Pain.
gotcha.
Which they may have also put him in and then just photoshopped the size of it down. It may be,
Yeah, I don't know.
you know, I say photoshopped, CGI'd, you know what I mean? Like made it look small. I don't know, but that was Pete Davidson voicing that.
Okay.
Just a lot of fun. There was many more cameos than that. Like Kevin Bacon showed up again for like a tenth of a second, right?
They mentioned there's
like-
there's a cutout on the newspaper about Kevin Bacon tells all for alien abduction or something.
No. I meant the character that he was in costume for in the Christmas special.
Oh, then I
Like
yeah, I
you
don't
know, like
I
in
don't
the
know.
opening when they're doing the music, the old 97s do their song and
Yeah.
whatnot. I feel like that character is in nowhere and like just kind of,
Okay.
around.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
which I'm sure they just filmed while they were filming the Christmas special and didn't put him into costume again.
The
Probably.
most surprising, Mike, unless you're done with those, did you know
Go for it,
Judy Greer?
Judy. Yes, yeah. Judy Greer was I don't remember their names.
Judy Greer,
the-
the character is War Pig. It's the one that
Yeah.
goes to
Oh.
attack and capture Rocket off of the Bowie.
That gets like annihilated by
Adam. Yeah, that's like
Adam,
like
yeah.
half pig.
All I can think of is like, what kind of Teenage
Rocksteady
Mutant Ninja
type
Turtle
thing.
villain is this thing? Like,
Yes, that's what I thought.
Oh, it was very Bebop. Like it.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like. It was awesome though. Those were cool as hell, and yeah, that was really. I mean, that was a James Gunn invention in his mind, where he was just like, have it have this and this and this.
But yeah, that
I-
was Judy Greer.
Nice.
Which actually, I seen a thing about that, saying that now Judy Greer and Linda Cardellini are among, like, almost nobody else has played two different characters in the MCU.
It's very few. Gemma Gemma Chan now
Yeah.
has as well, but yeah, it's probably less than one hand you could count.
And the I can't think of the lady's name. Shit, she was in Luke Cage and then she was in Civil War.
Oh,
Is Luke Cage MCU now though?
I still consider that MCU, but
Yeah,
Marvel
I know.
roles together.
Viola
what you mean.
Davis. Is it like Viola Davis? Is that her?
No,
name?
no, it's not.
No, that's not her. That's not her name. I know.
She
the
she
woman.
confronts him at the elevator. Tony Stark at the
Yeah.
elevator at the beginning of Civil War. I can't think of her name, but that's
Yes.
who I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
Any other thought? The uniforms. I fucking love the new Guardians outfits. Like, I feel like that's straight from the comic, and I love
Yep.
the way they looked on screen. I thought they were fucking fantastic.
Agreed.
All right, good for ratings.
Yep.
So real quick, I'm going to run down Metacritic for Guardians of the Galaxy. Metascore right now 64. User score 7.8. Rotten Tomatoes has higher scores. Rotten Tomatoes has a 82% for critic and a 95% for the audience. So I'm kind of surprised that Metacritic seems like it's that much lower than Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't know what's happening there. But
that's
I
the
guess we'll
rating
see.
system again. Metacritic lets it like is an aggregate of scores, whereas Rotten Tomatoes is a pass fail.
Yeah, so we'll see. But all right, out of 10, Josh, what do you give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Brian, can you look up my scores for the first two Guardians
No, I cannot.
movies?
Nope.
And
Nope. I didn't do it for everything. We're almost 300 fucking episodes into this. I'm not going back and doing them all, every single rating we've done. No.
I love that I upset you so quickly that it didn't even occur to you that the first movie came out almost a year before we started the show. But
Oh, see, yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah.
Think in your mind what you rate the other two and go from
I'm
there.
sure at some point we went through and did like hey, let's re-rate the MCU or list them in our, I know we've backtracked over the MCU stuff plenty of times, so it could be in there somewhere.
I know. So as a standalone consideration, I'm going to start this. As I said, this comes below Volume 2 for me, but still very strong. Volume 2 is nearly like a 9.9 for me. It's as close to a 10 for something that you could get for me. So I'm going to start at an 8 for this, and over time, I'm sure it'll find even a deeper place for me.
Mike, what are you giving out of 10?
9.25.
Oh,
Nine and a quarter for me. It was great. It was fun. It was, heart-wrenching and inspiring at the same time. It was a really damn good movie. I put it in the middle of the trilogy.
Okay.
I think the first one is kind of the way Josh feels about the second one, which, to me, they're all above a 9. I'd probably put this in even score with the second one. So,
okay.
Very, very, very good.
Yeah. Right now, I think I'm after just one viewing. I feel like this will probably go up after sequential viewings, but right now I'm at 8.5 out of 10 after first viewing. I think, Josh, you mentioned liking it that much more after a second viewing. I feel like I could see myself going that way. So I feel like the rating would improve if I had seen this again. And I don't know if I'll get around to seeing it again in the theater or not, but I'm definitely looking forward to a rewatch somewhere down the line.
I saw it twice back to back in the same room, both in the Dolby Auditorium. So I would say this, I don't got to tell you, but if you can see it in a premium format,
bigger and louder is always better.
Yeah, it really fits so well.
You said you were going to try to go back for number 3 or no?
Oh, definitely.
You going to go IMAX for number 3 just to change it up a bit, or are you going back in the Dolby?
If I can make it to Dolby, I will. I don't always go that far from where I live for rewatches, but there's really not an IMAX anywhere like immediately close to me either.
Yeah.
Go all the way. Go Science Center.
Is it playing at the Science Center?
Screen. I'm sure it's not. But, I'm sure there's somebody you could pay enough money to put it on there. I mean, you can rent that theater out for your own purposes, I believe.
I'm sure.
You should do
News
it.
to me. Yeah, I didn't know that. All right. That's it for us. If you've enjoyed the show, please support us. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to give us a share on social media. Be sure to follow or subscribe to the show to keep up with us. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher, Amazon, hopefully anywhere you're listening to podcasts, you can find us. Check us out on Facebook. Search Brad Guy and Super Friends or go to facebook.com/Brad Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. Try to send me an email, bradguysuperfriends@gmail.com. I won't ever check it. Hit us up on Twitter at BGSuperFriends that I can check and respond to. Feel free to follow me on Twitch. It's a Jedi Bry Guy. That's Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y. Whenever we decide to record another live show, we will do it there. I am currently, as I teased it, I think the last time, trying to play through Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I have been streaming all of the play sessions that I've done, so if you want to see me struggle with some of the bosses and stuff that I've done, check it out there, follow, and you can hopefully be notified whenever I go live and come in and say hi. Other than that, on behalf of Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you all the next time.